Welcome, everybody, back to the Friar Talk podcast and YouTube channel. So for today's episode, we're going to be doing our final 2021 grading for the Padres. We're going to be going over the infielders. We've already talked about the bullpen, the starters, the outfield, all of that stuff. So today we're going to be focusing on the infield. We are also not going to have an episode out tomorrow. Me and Isaac will be going live on Sunday, and then we'll be back on Tuesday. We'll be finishing up our off-season plan. Ryan's going to be coming on, recording with us Tuesday. That'll probably be out a little later in the week. Had some timing issues this week, so wasn't able to get him on. We were planning on having him on Saturday, but it didn't work out. But we will have him on later this week. I will say, I think his offseason plan is a little bit better than ours, Chase. I'm already letting you know that right now. It's pretty good. I've looked at it. I like the lineup. I'm a big fan, so we'll see what everybody thinks, but it'll be fun to have him on and really discuss another offseason plan. Plan is to also get some other guests on. Maybe we'll get Jim Russell back, Ryan Cohen. I haven't reached out to them yet, but I'm planning on doing that, so we'll see how that all goes down, but we're going to see, who people want to be on the Padres. But finally, we'll get into this last kind of recap of the 2021 season, going over these infielders. Chase, you want to just start off and maybe just go across the diamond first? We can talk about catcher a little after. I guess, I don't know. Do you want to just go through all the guys and all the starters and like what you have to say for them?
Sure. Let's start on the third base side because we all know what everybody's going to say about first base. So Manny, he did have some down parts of the year. His power numbers were down. He had that shoulder injury that was affecting his pop. I think you remember that Twitter video that came out when it was either him or Fernando was mic'd up. And he goes, I got no pop no more. Yeah, that shoulder injury was bugging him for a while because that video was probably like May, maybe end of May, beginning of June. So once that shoulder was finally fully healed and got back to strength, he was fine. His gold glove defense was back. He probably should win the gold glove this year. He didn't make many, probably like 2 or 3 errors at most. He saved us some games with his bat. He saved us some games with his glove. He was the captain of this team. You saw he put players in their place when he needed to be. He was always happy. He was always kind of like just the best clubhouse presence that you could probably ask for on the Padres. Going to short, I guess we'll go a combination of Tatis, Cronenworth, and ha-seong Kim. Give Tatis a B+. You had a couple shoulder injuries. Towards the end of the year, he started to be like kind of play individual baseball. He was really chasing that 40 home runs and everything. Got into that argument with Manny, so I'm going to ding him down just a little bit for that. So there's that. Cronenworth, I'm going to give a B. He did go through a little bit of a slump, but he really stepped up at short so that he can both play gold glove short and second base. He hit pretty well. He did go through a couple slumps. His power numbers weren't as good as they were last year. I think that was kind of just like the whole story of this team. Ha-seong Kim played almost every single infield spot except first, I believe. Played outstanding defense everywhere. Would have loved to seen a little bit more development with the bat. But when he was starting, most of the time he got hits. He started to really catch up to velocity, started to showcase his power, showcase his speed, showcase his glove. Really looking forward to seeing what he has next year. But because of what he did with the bat, I'm going to give him a C. But he is still adjusting to the league, so that is understandable. I guess we can throw Profar in there. He played pretty good first base. He played decent second base. He got you the walks whenever you needed. He always had good at-bats. There was rarely any times where he'd go down 1-2-3 or 1-2-3-4. He was usually like around 5 pitches per at-bat, which was amazing. Everybody's fan favorite. My fan favorite. Eric Hosmer at first. What couldn't have gone wrong there? From the amount of times he couldn't pick a ball to the amount of time where he just flat out like fell on his stomach to dive for a ball, which honestly, it didn't even look like a dive. It looked like he literally tripped over his feet and fell face first. The times the balls have gone through his glove, the times where he tried to catch balls on the dugout side of first base instead of, where first baseman normally is to stretch out, beat the runner. He thought it was a good idea to go on the opposite side so that the runner can get more ground before the ball reaches his glove. Amazing revolutionary ideas coming out from him. You can say he had an average year at bat with the bat. His power numbers were all right. He showed that he started to change his swing. I mean, compared to like 2019 and 2018 Hosmer.
Yeah. I just say like he did have under a 400 slugging at first base, though. I know what you mean. Though.
Yes,
You mean like in
I'm talking
comparison to
about
his
by Eric Hosmer standards. Eric Hosmer standards, it was all right. He was showing adjustments that, you know what, maybe he's going to finally get into the launch angle revolution. Maybe he's going to hit more home runs. Maybe he's going to hit more doubles. He's finally not going to ground out to second and first base every single time anymore. And then it disappeared like after a month. And he went back to his same old Hosmer and hitting ground out double plays to end the innings. Revolutionary at first base. Can I tell you that? Catcher was kind of it was like a lost cause for a little bit because we had Caratini, we had Webster Rivas, who really held it down for when Nola got hurt. Rivas did a pretty solid job. He didn't have everything with the bat, but that was kind of to be expected. Caratini hit well below his career averages. He was usually around a career 250 hitter, probably around 10, 15 home runs. We didn't really see either of that. He hit like 200, kind of struggled to make contact with the ball. He'd have an occasional really clutch hit. We gave him the name Clutchatini at the beginning of the season for a reason. Then it kind of just disappeared off the face of the earth. It was like the only reason he was on the team was to catch Darvish. But when Darvish got hurt, he was still catching games, and it was just like, okay, we can move on from this experiment. It's obviously not working. Didn't happen. For Austin Nola, as much as he was injured, he did provide some valuable at bats when he was not. I mean, he had some really good timely hitting with runners in scoring position. He did not have the power numbers this year. He only hit 2. That was partially to do with the knee injury, and he just has some really, really unlucky injuries. The poor man. He fractured his hand in spring training off a foul ball, and then like in his first 2 games back, he got hit in the same hand like twice. That's just unfortunate timing. You really can't do anything about that. That's nothing like he caused himself. I mean, it was just bad timing, bad luck with injuries. So, but you know what? He did call some really good games when he was behind the plate. He provided some valuable timely hitting with the doubles, the singles. He didn't hit the home runs, but he did hit with runners in scoring positions really well. Don't think I'm missing anyone, am I? I mean, if we want to include Jorge Mateo, that a couple times he played short, that was bad.
That was like twice, huh?
Yeah, it was like twice. That was bad. That was pretty bad. But
they're like, hey, let's play you an outfield all spring, and we'll just pop you back to short this week. That's so unfair to him.
Yeah, I think he played 1 or 2 games when Tatis got hurt the first time around. I don't think I'm missing anyone else, am I? I don't think so. So yeah, overall,
Frazier.
I'll give. Frazier. Oh man, what our coaching staff did to this poor man should be criminal. Came in, had really good launch angle, was hitting well over 300, and was the league leader in hits. Comes to the Padres, can't hit the ball out of the infield, hits everything on the ground into the right side, can't lift the ball up at all. He honestly didn't walk as much as we thought he was going to. It didn't seem like he was seeing the ball well. And I don't know what happened when he got traded to the Padres, but it fell off. Trey Turner overtook him for the league leader in hits, and I believe in average too. He still hit over 300, but there was like a solid month, maybe month and a half, where he was batting under 200. It was rough to see. Every time he hit the ball, it was weak contact. You saw the difference from when he left Pittsburgh to San Diego. And obviously that could be a change of coaching staff, a change of hitting philosophies, and we saw it. So the year he had on the Padres, I'm going to give him a C just because he did not do well with the bat since he got on the team. You could say maybe he picked it up at the end of the season, but by then it was too late. So I give him a C.
So we want to talk about a couple of things here. I'll start with Adam Frazier. So on the Padres, he hit 267 and had a 662 OPS. And you talk about how great he was on Pittsburgh. Let's see. On Pittsburgh, he was hitting 324 with an 836 OPS. However, hitting 267, right? In his entire career, he's a 281 hitter. So I don't think that it was necessarily like, don't get me wrong, the entire Padres team fell off in the second half. Like you're talking about Victor Caratini, how his numbers just fell off. He actually ended at 227, which I was surprised to see that he had that high of a batting average. It felt like he was barely scraping over 200 at the end. But the entire team fell off in the second half. So, but I don't know if it was necessarily like the coaching staff. Maybe somewhat. Like it definitely was this year, but I don't think that like you should expect him to be back to 320. That's part of the reason why I do think that the Padres should move on from Adam Frazier, because you look at what has he done throughout his entire career. It's not a 325 hitter. Like it's just not. Like he's a solid hitter, but he provides almost zero power. So I find it, I don't know. I saw some comments that like that's what the Padres really need, is to get guys that can rack up a lot of hits and not strike out. The Padres' issue is not striking out. The Padres were in the top 5 of lowest strikeout rates. That's like what we've seen, is that's not a stat that shows the good hitting teams. Home runs, the low ground ball rates, fly balls, high OPSs, high slugging, high on base. That's the teams that end up making it the deepest in the playoffs. And I don't believe Adam Frazier fits that role. I'm not going to grade him on terms of like how he was like moved for at the deadline and like the expectations were really high. I think a C is pretty fair. 267, not much power, so you might want to lower it to like a C minus, but he is a pretty solid defensive second baseman. Also not a position that where you generally get power either. But I would say that probably C is fine there. Another person I want to talk about as well, Manny Machado. You brought up that you thought he might have 2 errors. He had 13. However,
oh damn, I don't even remember that many.
Yes. However, one of the years he won a Gold Glove in Baltimore, he had 13 errors. Another year he won the Gold Glove in Baltimore, he had 19 errors. Errors are not a stat that's going to determine if you are a good fielder or not. We see everyone rip Fernando all the time for it. At the end of the day, Fernando graded out as an above-average fielding shortstop. So where does that kind of go to? Oh, first base. And I'll get there in a second. But I think Manny's year was, I think it was okay. I think I'm going to give him a B, just because I felt like he had a good year. Like he did have a pretty solid year, but it was a little bit under average for him, which, I mean, he still had an 836 OPS, hit 278, 28 bombs. Like it's not like he had a bad year or anything. He's in the mix for winning Gold Glove. So I'm going to give him a B. I just thought that offensively he wasn't quite where he's been at in past seasons and wasn't quite where I think he's going to be at next year as well. I think he's going to improve offensively. Shoulder injury, massive impact. Like you hear him on the field, and it's not like he's out there like complaining about his shoulder. No, it's just like he realizes like, hey, I cannot drive the ball like I usually do. And then all of a sudden, like once his shoulder started healing and he started regaining some of the strength there, you saw that like he definitely got better, I think, in terms of power as the year went on. So I would expect him to be back to his normal offensive numbers. Fernando, I'm giving Fernando an A+. I know that defensively struggled at times. I know like the stuff with Manny, I think that's more of frustration. I think that's more on the Padres organization and the Padres coaching than anything. I don't think that either Manny or Fernando should really be judged for that. That's just my opinion. I think there's a lot of people like that you're saying, Chase, that not like you're like ripping Fernando for it or anything, but you give him like a tick down for it, right? So I would say that in terms of that, I'm giving him an A+. He's in the mix for MVP. 975 OPS, 42 home runs from a guy that almost had his year ended in, what was that, April? May? Like, his season was amazing.
He almost had his year ended twice.
Yeah, and he faced so much adversity this year, and to be in the MVP mix, I'm giving him an A+ for that. Second base, Jake Cronenworth. A lot of people, not as much us. I think we thought he might have a little bit of a decline this year, coming off the short year of 2020. You definitely saw the tools there, like the long at-bats that he always grinds out, that sort of stuff. But I was a little bit concerned for him this year. Turns out Jake Cronenworth is a great baseball player. So I'm going to give him an A-. Not a perfect season, but I thought he did really, really well. great defensive second baseman, amazing defensive second baseman, much better defensive first baseman than Eric Hosmer. So I think I'm probably going to give him an A- there. And who else am I leaving out? Hosmer. I don't even want to talk about Hosmer. You're at first base. You have under a 400 slugging. Who knows how big of a problem he was in the locker room, but it definitely wasn't a positive impact. That's for sure. I would be very, very, very surprised if he's a part of the Padres team next season. I've said it before. Like, I think DFAing him, trading him, whatever you do, but to not give up top prospects with that, and maybe you save a little bit of money, you give up some okay guys. I don't know what they're going to do, but I don't think he can be a part of the future at all if they're going to really want to win. Catcher, Victor Caratini, I'll give him a C. Played a lot more than I think he was expected to play. He had 356 plate appearances. A lot more than I think we were expecting to get out of Victor Caratini. I think you want to be like 200 to 250. He was the guy who started most of the games at catcher. I think that he might be on the team next year. He does make a decent amount of money. And then Austin Nola, I'm not even going to give him a grade just because I think it's just incomplete. Didn't put up good numbers. Hard to blame him. He was so injured. So really, really tough there. And then outside of that, the only other guy I think that I really want to bring up is ha-seong Kim. He only hit 202, 622 OPS. Very bad offensive numbers, right? Defensively, he was amazing from the jump. He was amazing. However, he never got the consistency that he needed to have success. So it's hard to grade a guy and really knock him. I'll give him a C+ because he was so good defensively. He's making such a huge adjustment this first year in the MLB. And then to not have that consistency, which he definitely should have got at the end of the year, I don't understand why he didn't. It's so hard for him. It's such a hard spot to put him in. So I think that you're going to see him improve this offseason. And I think that you could definitely see him become a much better ball player. But anything else you want to add, Chase?
No, I think you basically nailed it. I gave Tatis a B+. You gave him an A+. I mean, realistically, most people are probably going to give him an A. I'm just being a little hard on him because he is kind of the future of our franchise. I mean, I want to see him play better than that. I want to see that shoulder healthy. The best characteristic to a baseball is availability. We've seen a lot of people. We've seen Mike Trout. We've seen Mike Trout recently, Ken Griffey Jr. You've seen these legends, and they start to fall apart and miss a ton of games, and you really see how that affects the team. So I really want Tatis to get fully healthy. I want him to play at least 140 games a year. I want to see that. I want to see him be the team leader that we know he is. I want to see him throughout the entire season, even the bad, kind of just carry the clubhouse attitude in a positive direction. And, we didn't see that in the second half. So that's the only reason I'm knocking him.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think that's going to end it for today's episode. Infield, maybe not the best season, but if you improve the first base spot, this is one of the best infields in the league. I'm really excited to see Campusano get called up. I do think there's a decent chance that the Padres have 3 catchers. And I actually like that idea. We'll definitely discuss this later in the offseason, but I actually do like that idea just because it gives Campy a chance to DH, and it gives him a chance to really be mentored by 2 guys in Austin Nola and Victor Caratini, who a little bit differently, but like there's a reason why pitchers really like Victor Caratini. And also Austin Nola is one of the best game callers, I believe, at the catcher position. One of my best friends is a catcher, and he thinks Austin Nola calls the best game in the entire league, and he's not even a Padres fan. So I really do have faith in Austin Nola. Got to stay healthy, though. That's the big thing for him. But I think that's going to do it for today's episode. So thank you all for listening, and we'll talk to you guys me and Isaac will talk to you guys on Sunday, and then me, Chase, and Isaac will be back on Tuesday. So talk to you guys soon.